Good morning from Charlotte, North Carolina, everyone. We are going to talk about what's going on with the NVC. This is another installment in our case manager webinar series called Meet Your Case Manager. And I haven't talked about it before, but we often use the topics that we're going to discuss in our webinars from what you reach out to us about, your biggest concerns, a lot of the questions we get from our case managers. And I will say the last couple of months, the most traffic has been regarding why are there delays with the MVC and what might those delays be and what is happening. So I think we're going to talk about that today. We have an excellent panel, really excited to have this particular panel with us. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. I'm Marlo Bench. I'm the director for RN Case Management. And I typically, on most of these webinars, I like to ask everybody where they're tuning in from. Oh, I saw somebody, hello from Germany. Hello from Nigeria. Hello from Ghana. That is fantastic. But I'm going to ask one more question today. We were chatting prior to the webinar, and we want to know, do you have a pet? Do you have a cat? Do you have a dog? Do you have a bird? Because most of us here have pets. So I'd be interested to know what everybody has. And thank you for staying up late to join us today. So I will turn the time over really quickly to Nathan Bunch, and he can let you know his really important role in Worldwide.
Hi, everyone. It is great to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And my name is Nathan Bunch. Like Marlo said, I am the senior legal clerk here in our Charlotte office. I help out our attorneys directly with all of the legal inquiries and needs that we have to assist you all to get to the United States.
Thank you, Nathan. And Nathan, do you have a pet?
I do. I have a dog. Her name is Fern. And yeah, she's a Catahoula. So bonus points, anyone in the chat, if they know what a Catahoula looks like.
That's fantastic. I love Fern. She's the best dog ever. I do have a dog. His name is Bear. And he's a real small dog, but he's a little black bear dog. So I saw somebody that said they had 4 dogs. I will pray for you regularly. 4 dogs. Good for you. I would actually love 4 dogs. All right. I will turn the time over to Thomas. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Thomas Harvey. I'm one of the attorneys that works in the legal department with Nathan at Worldwide HealthStaff. And I have a German Shepherd Blue Heeler mix. His name is Apollo, and he's a handful.
We'd love to have Apollo as a guest speaker today too, but he would steal the show. So Apollo had to go back into his crate this morning. Oh, a lot of people have no pets. And hello from Gambia. All right, let's turn time over to Amy.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Amy Reisman, and I am a senior case manager here at Worldwide HealthStaff. Today is my first webinar that my face is on, so I'm very excited to be on today and sharing some information for you guys. I don't have any pets currently, but I'm a pretty big cat person, so there'll be a cat in the works somewhere in the future.
That's excellent. She's our cat representative. And our silent face today is Christian Anguiano, our associate director who looks over our Idaho office. So everybody who has a case manager in Idaho, Christian is on our chat function today. So he is our silent supporter. Let's get started. Before we really get into too many details, this is just going to be a spoiler alert for this webinar. We don't have a lot of solid answers as to why we have particular delays. We're going to speak to what we've known in the past, what we're seeing now currently, and I think we'll just kind of take it from there. So what's going on with the MVC? Well, let's talk about the first part. Let's talk about processing timelines. First of all, I think everybody here is super familiar with all of the websites that they can go on to get any of their information. And one of the really main websites is travel.state.gov. So You can go on there and get a lot of information. And I want everybody to be aware that oftentimes when you go online to a site and you see a timeline posted, those are really subject to constant change. So what kind of constant change are we talking about? Well, it can be really just the obvious changes. Staffing. You can have a decreased number of staff. You can have increased number of petitions, which is probably the case at the moment. And I'm going to encourage my dream legal team to hop on anytime. And if I am misinforming you or if they'd like to add to anything, but I would say that there is a really big backlog at the moment with the NVC. And the number of inquiries that are sent out to the NVC would also probably affect some timelines. Changes of attorney of record. We've had that in the past. And after speaking with Thomas actually the other day, he said that that doesn't necessarily affect a processing timeline. You just probably throw in a couple of extra forms, processing forms, which unfortunately adds more time onto our legal team, but it really doesn't slow down where you're at in the process. Petitions aren't grouped or processed according to your employer or chronological order. Big question we get all the time. We get emails all the time. Hi, ma'am, my colleague is also with, I'll use DaVita, for example. My colleague's with DaVita, and right now they have their fee bill, but I'm still waiting. My petition's been sitting at stage 6 for a long time, but we filed at the same time. And I would love to be able to say, great, I'm super excited. You can get ready any moment now to receive your fee bill. But unfortunately, that is not how the MVC processes the petition. So they're not grouped or processed according to your employer or any kind of chronological order, which is the order that your petition was received. And lastly, they are assessed according to visa type. So what is your visa type? I will throw that out to Nathan Bunch. What is the visa type for our RN candidates?
Yeah, our visa type for RN candidates is going to be an EB3. So that's the employment-based third visa. And so that's the category that all of our RNs will be grouped into.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Nathan. So let's hop to the next slide, and I'll turn the time over to our legal team to discuss a little bit about how we don't encourage you to contact the MVC.
I can jump in here. So when it comes to any type of request that you have for the MVC, I think the important thing to note and realize here is that sending multiple requests to the NVC is not the best way in order to necessarily get a response, because these requests go to different people that are in the NVC, I guess, request department or whatever department they necessarily have. And so if you send multiple requests, be it either yourself or us at Worldwide HealthStaff, it kind of bunches them up. And so people are not necessarily, pressed to necessarily answer multiple requests that come from the same candidate. And so I think what's important to note here is that you should contact your case manager, and then the case manager will contact us in the legal department in order to necessarily make these requests, be it, hey, I haven't got my fee bill. I need to add or remove a dependent, or I need to, move my embassy to a certain place. It's more important for us at Worldwide HealthStaff in order to actually do these things on your behalf, because if you're sending a request and we're sending a request, those requests are going to conflict themselves, because depending on what you necessarily want, even if it's the same thing, we find ourselves in a situation often where the NVC will often look and be like, well, I just answered for this particular candidate. Nathan, you can probably speak more to that as well, considering the fact that we kind of end up in that situation. But I think it's important for us to make sure that if you have some sort of request that needs to go to the NVC, contact your case manager, who will then contact us in the legal department, and we will make that request on your behalf. And we'll make sure that, any issues that you necessarily have are taken care of at that point.
Yeah, and I'll just hop in really quick. And the number one thing about the NVC is inconsistency. As Marla was kind of alluding to before, a lot of times we'll submit these requests and we'll submit two at the same time. One will come back within a couple weeks and one will take a couple months. And unfortunately, it's just kind of up to the NVC to push these along at their pace. Once we submit a request, there's not too much, unfortunately, that we can do. There is the website, as we talked about in the previous slide, for NVC timeframes. It gives a rough estimate. However, it's not super accurate most of the time. So as Tommy said, your case manager will help you in deciding when a good time is to submit these requests. And if it's appropriate at that time, we'll go ahead and put it in on our side. The case manager will reach out to us. We have a system in place they can do so, and we'll submit that request on your behalf.
Awesome. So I'll take it from here. I did want to touch a little bit on this webinar, just on the concept of expedite requests, because I think one of the more common questions that case managers get from their candidates is, as soon as our candidates receive their DQ letter, their documentarily qualified letter from the NVC stating that all documentation has been received from them, we immediately get a lot of flooding questions like, can my case be expedited to the embassy? Can we put in a request to expedite my case to the NVC, to get it to the embassy? And I do want to go ahead and just kind of touch on how we can go ahead and do those expedite requests. So we will be encouraging candidates to be making those requests on their own behalf rather than the attorney. The NVC expedite requests have a completely different system for submitting rather than your typical inquiries that go to the NVC. So while we are, kind of saying hold back on submitting requests to the NVC, in terms of expedite requests, the NVC uses a totally different system for the expedite requests. So it'll be okay for you to go ahead and submit those requests instead of the attorney. I think there's a huge misconception that whenever the requests are submitted by the attorneys, it's a bit more valuable than when a candidate does it. And that's not necessarily the case. You as the candidate are welcome to make your own request to expedite your case to the NVC. And it isn't necessarily seen as less or more valuable than when the attorney does it on your behalf. Any kind of tips and tricks that I want to share on making those expedite requests, we do want to make sure that we are waiting an appropriate time before making that initial request. If we submit it a bit too early, the NVC is not really going to want to adhere to it. So we want to make sure in between being documentarily qualified and waiting for your embassy interview that we're waiting until you're at least documentarily qualified for 3 months before wanting to make an expedite request to the NVC. Now, if you guys want to go ahead and start getting instructions on how to properly request for an expedite to the NVC, I'll suggest you guys reach out to your case managers. We have the resources, we have the correct contact information and means to help you guys request your own expedite to the NVC.
Thank you, Miss Amy. I appreciate that. I wanted to add, and I will do what I didn't really want to do, but I will throw out some of the timelines that we are noticing with the NVC right now. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people are worried that there's something wrong. Is there something wrong with my petition? Was something forgotten? Was something omitted? Was there an issue how my petition went from the USCIS to the NVC? So when your petition is approved at the USCIS, it goes over to the Department of State. And in the prior slide, we saw a really beautiful little picture of the Department of State building. And on that, you see that the NVC is a department within the Bureau of Consular Affairs at the Department of State. So a lot of people think that it just goes straight over to the NVC. And I think what happens is it travels over to the Department of State and then it gets processed from there and then heads into the NVC. So we have over the last few months seen, golly, up to 6, 7, 8 months getting a fee bill. And that's been a big worry and a big concern for a lot of candidates. And it's not because anything is wrong. It just happens to be because that's what the processing is at the moment. Like Nathan mentioned earlier, it really, it varies. I guess the most consistent thing is that they are inconsistent. So let's hop over to tips to move through the petition quickly so that we kind of don't.
Marla, if you don't mind me just jumping in here for a moment.
Yeah, please.
I think what's important to note for candidates is something at a human level, that there's not one person who processes all these petitions at the USCIS level, at the NVC level, and at the embassy interview level. Everybody who, I mean, just like all of us who are on this webinar, we're all humans. And just like everyone who is applying for these visas, we're all humans as well. So I think what's important to note is that your petition is not electronically processed. There is a person who has your petition who has to process it. And so noting that sometimes that we all have things that are going on is something important to note as far as I guess understanding why application processing might differ from different individuals is because there are different people who work at these different agencies, and sometimes things go on. That's all.
Yep. Thanks, Tommy. That is an excellent point. Every adjudicator looks at things differently. And so, you know, what you would assess would not necessarily be at the same thought process that another adjudicator would. So some review in a more timely fashion and others take a little bit longer. And honestly, I'd rather it take some time and have them do it right. And I mention it on every webinar, but I myself am an immigrant and I have to do my own immigration paperwork. And it took me 3 years. And I was really concerned, just like you are when you reach out to a case manager. I thought, why is it taking so long for me to get this notice? Or why is it taking so long for it to progress to the next step? And 3 years is a really long time. And I was actively working on my petition. My husband and I did it together and we worked really, really hard. And it was, golly, I think my stack was about this big by the time we were done. But just remember that your attorney will be your really big indicator if something isn't going well. If you don't hear from your attorney, things are probably going really, really well. Should your attorney have any indicator that something isn't right or have received a notice, they will work on that immediately. They will communicate that information to your case manager and your case manager will let you know. So just remember, if sometimes there's an English expression, no news is good news. So just keep that in mind. And your attorney is just as anxious as well as your case manager to see your petition go through quickly, smoothly. We're invested emotionally with you. We've gone on this journey with you, and your attorneys are also very concerned. And it is really important to them. This is what they do all day long. Those two gentlemen you see sitting in front of you spend countless hours all day, all evening sometimes, a weekend. I don't like to pull in too much personal stuff, but these gentlemen log a lot of hours on your behalf. And Amy is one of our excellent senior case managers. You know, we pull a lot of hours for you because we really care about you, and Worldwide is really personally invested in your life and this exciting journey to the United States and to bringing you wonderful healthcare professionals that sacrifice on a regular basis to the United States. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys can do to make sure that, you know, there aren't any hiccups along the way. So how do we move things through a little bit quicker, or how can we prepare so that we don't have a delay? So we've talked about this before. We've had webinars on the visa screen. We need to make sure that that visa screen is done before we get to stage 7. Everybody will be familiar with stages. Your case manager notifies you, hey, right now you're at stage 5, your petition was filed. Hey, you're at stage 6, your petition's approved. So stage 7 is once the MVC has got your petition and they have created your fee bill. We want to make sure that visa screen's through. I do want to recognize, I see a lot of questions about, hey, I took this language exam, I took the OET, I took the PTE, I took the IELTS, I took the TOEFL. Please remember your case manager will direct you on which language exam is the one for you to take, because it's not necessarily the one that will help you get the visa screen, but it is the one that is applicable to your assigned state licensure. So I know I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit, but it's a really big question we get asked. So please remember your language exam will be the one that is applicable to your assigned state licensure. And you are so welcome. Somebody said, thanks for reassuring me, Marlo. You are so welcome. It is my pleasure. So number 2, gather all your civil documents. I will say this is my favorite part because my candidates are really personally invested in getting all their documents together. There's some that are more timely than others. We have police clearances, and we need those from every country that you've lived in for 6 months or more from the time you were 16. So often those are maybe only good for 3 months or 6 months, and we know that our NBIs are good for a year. So it's really important to gather as many as you can, with the exception of the clearances, until that's needed to be submitted. And for a spouse or a new babe to be included on your petition, don't forget you're going to need original certified copies of birth certificates, marriage certificates, and make sure that you have passports. Just everybody that's expecting and a new baby's coming, please, 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 as soon as that new baby comes, work on a passport and a birth certificate as soon as you possibly can, so that doesn't slow anything down for your little baby. Gather police clearances for yourself and each dependent. And as I had mentioned before, it's for all of your dependents that are 16 years and over. And the police clearances, again, are applicable to everywhere that you've lived for more than 6 months from the time you were 16. And lastly, after submitting your civil documents, you are going to want to hop on and get that DS-260 filled out online, and your case manager will walk you through that one step by step. It is a really big document. I remember filling that out. I did not like filling out the DS-260. It is really long and involved, and they want to know everywhere you've lived and everywhere you've worked and everything you've done from the time you were 16. And I'm a really old person, and so I could not remember where I lived when I was 16. And you know what I had to do? I had to go call my mom. I'm like, Mom, where did we live when I was 16? What was our address? Because you know what moms do? They keep every record. They keep it in a journal. So my mom was actually able to dig up everywhere we lived from my lifetime, from 16 moving on forward. So it's really important you be thorough on your DS-260. Don't forget any of your information. And when you get to the section of your petitioner, your case manager will be able to help you out with that. Your petitioner name, address, phone number, email, things like that. So please reach out to your case manager if you have any questions on your DS-260. And I'm going to open up the panel. Did I forget anything? Is there anything else that causes a delay at all? Amy, Nathan, did I forget anything? No? Okay. Christian, my silent Christian on chat. Did I forget anything, Christian?
I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
All right. And if anybody has thought of something I haven't, please reach out to your case manager with that question. And so we will go to our very last slide, which is what we like to reinforce at every webinar. Make sure you consult your case manager before taking any actions. We love that you are proactive. We love that you want to move this along. it's really prudent for you to talk to your case manager prior to moving forward with any kind of a request to the MVC. Remember, that will potentially cause delays with your petition. It's the one thing that you want to move ahead really quickly, but the one thing that will potentially cause you a delay. So please don't reach out to the MVC unless you're directed to do so by your case manager. And I think that's it for today. I think we're going to turn the time over to Q&A, and I'll turn it back over to CJ, our amazing presenter.
All right. Thanks, Marlo. So hello, everyone. So I'm CJ, and I'll be your moderator for the Q&A. So everyone, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. We always, to all of the nurses out there, we always appreciate your time joining our webinars here at Worldwide HealthStaff Solutions. And just to give information about the pet, I also have a pet in the house. We have an Akita. And when I was in the Philippines, I have an American Bulldog. And I'm looking forward to get a Cane Corso, but I'm not really familiar with that type of dog, but I really like that dog. So maybe in the future. So with that being said, let's go with our Q&A session. So I've seen a lot of questions from the chat, and thank you so much, Christian, for answering the questions from the chat. That's really helpful. So let's move forward. First question is from Rahman. He said, how long does the NVC take to issue the fee bill?
Well, we can all hop on there, but right now we are currently experiencing a timeline of anything from, okay, Nathan, remind me, what was the fastest you've seen a fee bill lately, and what is the oldest? I think I've seen it take up to 8 months, but what's the quickest we've seen?
Thomas will be able to help us out a little bit better with the fastest. I know normal processing times is probably anywhere from 2 to 6 months right now. I would say it's average.
Yeah, that
Thomas
seems
about the fastest. He's a little bit more hands on that.
Nathan's absolutely correct. I think the thing to understand is kind of what I was saying in the beginning is that these are human beings who work at these particular facilities. So sometimes people are quicker than others. And so sometimes we've seen fee bills that get issued within 2 months, and sometimes it takes 8 months. It's really a very variable situation. It just really depends on who necessarily has your fee bill, or I guess your petition in hand to necessarily issue that fee bill. So Nathan's absolutely correct.
All right, thank you. Next question is from Ram Rayala, and she said, I just passed my OET yesterday and forwarded the results to CGFNS. Does this mean that my NVC fee bill can be paid already?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I saw Amy almost ready to answer that one. I will say what I have to say on that, and then I'm going to have Amy kind of expound on that a bit. I hope that you consulted with your case manager before you took the OET, because I will reiterate one more time. We encourage everybody to take the language exam that is applicable to your state licensure. So will that OET get you the visa screen? It will, and congratulations, because that's a really tough hurdle to go over. But what happens now is you have another hurdle to get over, because oftentimes your state licensure will have a different language requirement, and most likely it will not be the OET. So will we pay the fee bill? Take it away, Amy.
Yeah, we will pay. We will move forward with paying fee bills once you've provided proof, documentation to your case manager that you have passed the English exam that complies with what's going to be required for your state licensure endorsement. That's when we'll be going forward and paying that fee bill.
Thanks, Amy. And the reason that we move forward to pay the fee bill when you have satisfied the language requirement that is associated with your state licensure is because there are several delays associated with not doing that. So if you did the OET and it doesn't comply with state licensure, we now have another set of delays to go through for you to pass that particular language requirement. And should we pay the fee bill, it might move your petition forward quite quickly. And then we find ourselves in a bit of a dilemma with getting to an embassy interview quickly, and then we don't actually have all the requirements we need for licensure. So we typically hold off on paying the fee bill until we get all of that language requirement set in place. And that is pretty standard for how case managers move through that process.
All right, thank you. And next question is from Liliosa. The question is it still necessary to apply for premium processing even though there is a delay at the NVC?
Ooh, premium processing. I love that. I'm going to ask one of our attorneys. Hop on.
Not an attorney, but I can grab that one. Sorry, Tommy.
You're fine. Go ahead.
So premium processing, premium processing expedites the USCIS stage. So it's premium processing does not affect the NVC. And before the case is sent to the NVC, it goes through what's called adjudication, or you can think of that like judgment at the USCIS. So they make sure that all of your documents are in order. Premium processing puts you to the front of the line there. So instead of about 6 months, it gets you through in about 2 weeks. To a month, depending on how fast they go. So it won't speed up your NVC, but it is worth it for the USCIS, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think anytime you can cut 6 months off your petition timeline, that's well worth it. And from what I understand, and you guys can hop on and contradict me, your employer pays for that premium processing on your behalf because they see the value in getting you through as quickly as possible. Again, just reiterating, we're all here to make this petition go through as quickly as possible and smoothly, and that includes your employer. So they are interested in making sure that everything goes right as often as possible. So thanks, CJ. What's our next question?
Okay, next question is from Sahara. And she said, I am DQ'd since September 26th of 2022, and currently I am in Abu Dhabi, and I would like to change my embassy location due to the delays that's happening here. Should I move my embassy to Manila, or do you recommend me to change my embassy location?
That is a great question. I can tell you what a case manager would say about that. I think that things move through Abu Dhabi a little quickly, a little smoother. I would not necessarily make that embassy change to Manila, just because anytime you make an embassy change, anytime you want to do any kind of change to your petition, what you're doing is just adding more time onto that process. You just don't know how long an embassy change is going to take. I think, is it 1 to 2 months? Maybe? Tom, is it longer than 1 to 2 months right now? Yeah. Okay. So let's go say 1 to 3 months.
It's really variable.
Yeah. Okay. So we just don't ever.
Yeah. 1 to 3 is good.
1 to 3 is good. Okay. Let's stick with 1 to 3. And again, everyone, when we're throwing out these timelines, it's because that's what we are currently seeing with petitions, right? It's what the legal team is seeing. It's what case managers are seeing. So I think my best advice, and Amy can hop on with this as well, I would not make an embassy change unless it's absolutely necessary. And those necessary times are when, hey, I'm just finishing my job contract and my visa is going to expire and I need to go back to Manila for the timing. Hey, in a situation like that, absolutely, we would go ahead and move forward with an embassy change. But if you're in Abu Dhabi, it goes fairly smoothly there. So I would suggest you stay there. Amy, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think it could potentially cause more delay. Again, when you want to make some kind of change to your case, I think there could be potential for there to be a bigger delay in trying to transfer your embassy from Abu Dhabi to Manila rather than just holding on and waiting for that Abu Dhabi embassy date. Because I agree with you, Marlo. I feel like we see our trends with the Abu Dhabi embassy. They're typically one of our greater. I feel a lot of ease and I feel a lot of relief when I see that our candidates are at the Abu Dhabi embassy.
Well said. I feel ease. It's true. Yeah. Hooray for Abu Dhabi, everybody in Abu Dhabi. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're down with our last question. And this is really a specific question from Mark Ryan David. And the question is, he said, I have a question. Let me just check that. Okay, I have a question. If I have a record of deportation from other country in the Middle East because of minor offense like liquor, does it affect my visa processing or during embassy interview? And he said, no civil or criminal case record, just minor offense from Islamic conservative country.
I can do my best to try and at least navigate that one. So when it comes to the United States and you immigrating from a foreign country, the United States wants to make sure that they are not giving a visa to somebody who has potentially done something that could be, one, disqualifiable, and two, they could be, I guess, I hate to use this word, but danger to people who are already here. So when it comes to that specific question, it's difficult to navigate that because we don't know the specific facts of what you mean by when you say civil. There's no civil or criminal issue. It's just, I guess, something that happened. We can't answer that question specifically, but what we can say is that when it comes to you trying to come to the United States, they are going to look to see whether or not you have any disqualifiable instances. And when I say instances, I mean civil, criminal, or I guess miscellaneous or otherwise, that would stop them from processing your visa. So to answer that person's question, sorry, we can't really tell you whether or not it's going to delay your process or it's going to stop you from getting a visa. We would have to know the specific instance that you're referring to in order to give you, I guess, a better answer. But just for everyone who's on this call, when it comes to getting your visa processed, the United States wants to make sure that when you come to this country, you don't have anything that's going on somewhere else that might give them pause to say this person shouldn't be here. I don't know if Nathan wants to speak to that, but that's kind of the best answer I can give to that specific question.
Yeah. Thomas said it right on the head. I think that it's super specific and complicated. The United States takes some time to adjudicate, and we'll have to research a little bit. But for cases like that, reach out to your case manager, and they'll let us know and get to the bottom of how to help you best get here to the United States.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Thomas and Nathan. So we're finished with the Q&A session, and I just want to remind you all that if you have further questions, always reach out to your case managers, because they will be more than happy to help you with all your concerns and questions. And also, if you have a colleague, if you have a friend who wants to work in the United States, here's a link for them to you can refer a nurse friend with us. I can paste the link on the chat. So just access that link and fill out the form if you want to refer a nurse. So, and also within 24 hours, you will receive an email containing a replay of this full webinar. So thank you. And again, back to you, Marlo.
Thanks so much, CJ. It's been a real pleasure to talk about the MVC and some of our candidates' concerns and the questions. Many of the questions we're faced with I know we weren't able to touch on all of the concerns our candidates have, but clearly we're very aware. We're acutely aware, and this legal team that you see in front of you, as well as our outside attorneys. This is our in-house attorney team, part of them. We also have outside attorneys that are equally invested and very much aware of potential delays. We're all working for you. We care about you, and we appreciate the sacrifices, the double shifts, the many COVID sicknesses that you endure, all of the sleepless nights, the worry. We feel those fears, and as case managers, we want to be able to help you feel better and secure and comfortable and important and loved. And so with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I know that the sound for some wasn't particularly good, so I'm sure the replay will work out really well. Please reach out to your case manager with any other questions. And I'd like to thank Nathan and Thomas and Amy and Christian very much for their participation today. And I look forward to chatting with everybody next month with our next installment of Meet Your Case Manager. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.